understand that many times the reason we get into trouble as Nigerians is because of our lack of ability to heed simple instructions. Though we may lament and wail and say the government did this, did that, haven't done this and that, but in our little corners, in our places of work, at home, instructions given by hierarchy, and by hierarchy I mean in every organization, in every place, there seem to be a form of leadership. We cannot beat our chest and say, indeed, we do stick to every instruction. Even when it comes to our relationship with authorities, when instructions are given, when directives are given, we don't exactly obey them to the latter. And then I just really wondered, do we really have the right to complain when there is a disaster? And I say this because it's amusing to me, almost amusing to me, why every single time you are with a group of people going, traveling, whatever, and then you find yourself in a filling station. That is the time some human beings will bring out their phones to make a phone call. When it is written clearly at filling stations, do not make phone calls. It is written clearly that the product you're about to purchase is flammable. It is written clearly that the gas in your home is flammable, yet people go in with radioactive devices, phones, within a very close distance. And then is it that you don't know that there's an instruction, or you just don't think it will happen? The people who engage themselves, who endanger themselves and get into trouble, also didn't think it will happen until it happened. Why? You know what's also annoying about the whole thing is the fact that when you even speak to them and say, you're doing the wrong thing, it's almost like they're offended. Yesterday, while coming through, a bus and a car collided. This is it. The bus was trying to come out of the curve, and then the car owner, the driver of the other saloon car, came in and just drove in front of the bus. He was upset. Now, the other guy in the bus in the front seat was talking to the driver and said, "You did wrong." This driver in the saloon car knew he was wrong. He knew that he shouldn't have turned the way he did. But because he was upset at the way the guy, not the driver now, the way the guy in the front seat spoke to him, he decided to obstruct traffic, to cause traffic. This Mr. Man stood in front of the bus and dared the driver to run him over. You were wrong. What was worse is that by the time LASMA officials came to intervene, he admitted that he was wrong, but he was upset at the way the man who sat in the bus spoke. Why are you upset? You're wrong. You shouldn't be in the way that you are in. And someone is calling out your wrongdoing, and you're upset that they're calling out your wrongdoing, and because of that, you're daring everybody and causing traffic and being a nuisance. What's worse, he had his wife in the car and his kids. What is wrong with a lot of us? Really? What is wrong with a lot of us? Why are you upset that someone is calling out your wrongdoing? Why are you angry that someone is saying you did wrong? Because you did wrong, somebody should say something. In fact, it is very wrong for something wrong to be going on and nobody is saying anything about it. And yet here you are. You are angry that someone is telling you that you are wrong. And because of that, you're causing traffic and you are daring everybody. We have to do better. No, I don't know if it's ego. I don't know if it's pride. I don't know what it is, but we have to do. But that is not the way to behave. That is not the way to live. Flouting instructions and directives does not mean like you don't. No, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that you are unruly. It just means that you are just unruly. And that will give credence to the term many people would describe Nigeria as animal kingdom, because the people within the geographical location of Nigeria are acting like they are in animal kingdom. We have to do better. We really have to do better as a people, as individuals, wherever we find ourselves, we must do better. And now let's dive into our conversation this morning. Now, beginning with the Punch newspaper, and here it says the banner headline on the Punch reads: "Mass failure, jam bus sweeps as human error forces Lagos Southeast to recede." Many people have called for, that the jam boss, Professor Luyede, be given, be forgiven. Cut him some slack because he's admitted publicly that there was a systematic error in why there was mass failure. Now, I don't know how true this particular incident was, but there is an unconfirmed story of a particular student who sat for that exam and who unalived herself because she was devastated by the result she got. In the result, and it's very devastating. That, I mean, I don't know how true that is. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but yeah, that's some of the stories making the round. But he has come out to admit that indeed there was a technical error, and that's the reason there was mass failure. Over 75% of people who sat for the JAM examination got less than 200, about 1.5 million people. And now, while some people are saying cut him some slacks, others are saying, you know what, why don't you hand over the reins of the reins to someone younger, someone more with more technological skills, someone with more advanced intellect in running the affairs of JAM. But while on both sides of the conversation, I just really wonder, can we truly blame, I don't know that every time there is a systematic failure in an organization, the boss usually will take the fall for it. If there needs to be an apology, they will be the one to render the apology. But the body itself, should we, when we talk about systematic failure, when we talk about technical errors, should we blame it solely on the boss? Changing the authority, the figurehead, would it change the way procedures are being done in that in that agency? Would it really change it? I said this because many times, if you want to, and I'm speaking on the educational sector, if you want to make certain corrections, or there was an error or something, I know. I have a sister who was, while filling her JAM form, instead of the people at the center to fill in female, they put in male. It was a tussle, and I really commend her doggedness in getting that corrected. It took months. At some point, we're considering, you know what, maybe you should forfeit your 1 year semester, one year already done, and just start all over again, because it does look like I would hate for you to spend 4 years. And at the end of the day, by the time you're ready to collect your certificate, they say to you that, oh, there is something wrong with your identification or your gender or something like that. But it took a long time. She kept on going to JAM office over and over and over again before she was able to get it resolved. But what was amusing to me about the entire process was the whole analog procedure it required to get it done. A lot of paperwork. And I just really wonder, in 2025, should we still be going through this whole process? That is not to say that there isn't some technical, technical procedure in filling these forms and getting this corrected, but the amount of paper trail in 2025, especially when she had to do that, speaking first-hand experience, it was not a very tidy experience. Now with this situation, we see the boss during a press conference. He was, fighting off tears as he admitted that indeed there was an error, and that was why there was that massive failure was recorded at during the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, and of course it's very sad that such a thing is happening. But right now, the board has decided that the vast majority will reseat the examination, especially those in Lagos and in the Southeast. Another question that begs me answered is, this reseating of the examination, is it enough to compensate? Is it enough to solve the problem? Overall, does this not mean that perhaps there needs to be a larger look to, seeing the way the runnings of this, how it's been run, how exams are being conducted, recorded, marked, and all of that? Well, we're going to take a pause in that. And turn to other headlines. And here, still on the Punch newspaper, as we're looking through more, Lagos to introduce a monthly rent payment system. This is also another conversation that have dominated. And, some people on one hand have argued that because of our economic structure, how that would not earn hourly like you would find in other climes where uh, people are being paid hourly, and so sometimes people would earn their wages weekly, bi-weekly, or at the end of the month, as the case may be. It goes on to say that perhaps, so someone saying that with the introduction of these, it might be a little, many Lagosians might not be able to cope with what is to come with this. With this procedure. But looking through the story, the Lagos state government has said it is working to introduce monthly and quarterly rent payment option as part of efforts to reduce the financial pressure on residents, especially low-income earners. The State Commissioner for Housing, Maruf Kinderu Fatai, disclosed this. This was talked about on Tuesday. He was saying that the planned policy is a continuation of the state's drive to make housing more accessible and affordable for many people, especially salary earners. The way they gauge their rent is they set up a saving, and they begin to save till the end of the year for their rent they would pay at the end of the year, and most times that's how it's easier for them. So with this procedure, would it make it really easier, or to be much more difficult for Lagosians to cope with the pressure of paying their rents? And I mean, the authorities are saying that this is a means to reduce the cost of housing. Now, cutting down the amount of time, the duration, or the expense of time it would require for individuals to pay their rent, would that really impact the cost of housing? Or looking through the overhaul, let it be an overhaul as regards housing and tenant, and rates and all of that? Shouldn't that be the direction that should be looked at, as opposed to cutting down how for the duration of which individuals should pay rent? These are some of the conversations that have dominated. Now, looking through more headlines before we turn to our analyst who will be joining us via the phone lines to comment on some of our conversation. On the Guardian newspaper here, the banner headline: Custom facilitates a 16.9 billion naira export of made in Nigeria goods through semi-border. That is on the Guardian newspaper. This one here says reps warn CBN high interest rates may backfire. That is still from the Guardian newspaper. Now, the House of Representatives Committee on National Planning and Economic Development has warned the Central Bank of Nigeria against the unintended, unintended consequences of sustaining high interest rates in its fight against inflation. Now, the chairman of the committee, Boyega Nasiru, issued the warning yesterday in Abuja during an interactive session. And they went on to say that they said that the warning became necessary as the Apex Bank prepares to hold its 300th Monetary Policy Committee meeting next week. Of course, at the 299th NPC meeting held on February 10th and 20th, the CBN retained the monetary policy rate at 27.5%, maintaining a tight monetary stance aimed at curbing inflation. This is captured on the Guardian newspaper. Now, looking through more headlines here, now we're going to go back for a moment to the Punch newspaper, and this one here reads that tension in Ogun, Lagos over alleged deadly rise in circulation. This is captured on the Punch newspaper. Now, there has been tension in Ogun, Lagos State over rumors that there is a deadly rise in circulation. Of course, parents and relatives have been sending voice messages to loved ones, warning them against buying or consuming rice at this time because of a foreign trader had invoked the spirit of Ogun deity after her 2 trucks of rice were stolen and smuggled into Nigeria. Now, according to the video and the audio that was circulating, the trader was distraught by her loss that she had incurred, and she said anyone who partook of the rice, whether you're buying for yourself, whether you're aware or you're not aware, whether you're buying to sell to the public or you're eating in your family, it doesn't matter. You will also be a partaker of this curse that she's laid. Now, of course, in various voice notes that were forwarded, the speakers maintained that 2 trucks of rice were stolen from a neighboring country and were later smuggled into Nigeria through the Idiroko border and the Seme border. Now, it was stated that the owner of the bags of rice, a woman, contacted some Ogun worshippers in Ghana to lay curses on whoever buys or consumes the alleged stolen rice. Accordingly, it was rumored that some customs officers and a soldier had died in Badagry, Lagos State. It was also alleged that another sender, that over 70 persons had died in the past few days after buying or consuming the said rice. Now, imported rice from Benin Republic remains one of the most consumed staples in Nigeria, especially by children and youth. Now, with this latest message, many people have begun calling family members and loved ones to. Does that mean, how do you tell which is the stolen one and which is the smuggled one? How do you tell which is which? How do you tell it apart? Although some people have sort of criticized the woman and say that it's really unfair because you're laying curses on innocent people. I'm just really curious. Should innocent people be, someone who you worked hard and you got the rice, wherever you got it from, should they also, should the curse follow those people too? The innocent, as far as, the trade is concerned, and they didn't steal. They exchanged the money for the trade, and so should is it even fine? Is it okay that the curse follows innocent people who, without even knowing the origin or the source of the rice? Again, I wanted to know if this individual, is there an autopsy that's been carried out to verify that these 70 persons who alleged died because of the curse and not because of another reason. These are some of the things we need to take into consideration. Now, a resident of Ikpokai, local government area in Ogun State, Morayo, has said that some parents went to schools telling the food vendors not to sell rice to the children because many people have begun taking precautionary measures. Are you taking precautionary measures? Have you heard about this rice? Have you come in contact with it? Do you know how to identify the rice? Does that mean that from now to further notice, no one should eat rice anymore? Well, this also casts should raise more questions about what is being done to smuggled goods. We see these things many times on television sometimes, or sometimes it's been put out even publicly when certain contraband will be confiscated, and many times it's even legal that this confiscated goods are resold to the public. We're looking at fish, we're looking at cars, we're looking at rice, contraband generally. Many times, sometimes you see it, and sometimes I even see some of them on Facebook. They tell you, oh, the custom officers have seized some cars and now they're auctioning it. What should be the proper method of disposal of goods that were confiscated, through smuggling? What should be the proper way of disposal of these goods? All right, do well to join us. We're streaming live on Facebook on at Damimogo 93.1 FM, on at Damimogo 93.1 FM, and then you can join us as well. We call us on 0805 5888 192, 0805 5888 192, 0805 5888 193, 0805 5888 193 is the number to dial to join in the conversation, and I'll be connecting with our analyst who will be joining us via the phone line. He's a public affairs commentator, Adeola Imani, and he will be Just a moment for connecting with him. And meanwhile, you can give us a call and let's share your thoughts on some of the headlines. All right. Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel. Welcome to the breakdown.
Good morning.
Yes, you're welcome. Now, let's dive into our conversation straight away. But I would like us to begin with Lagos, even though it's not exactly or rather, let's begin with Jam. Is the banner headline now? The Jam official board, the boss has come to apologize for the mass failure that occurred at the last UTME examination. Now, some people have said, I've called that the board be given a break for at least admitting publicly, as shameful as that might be, that they were wrong, that the glitch was from them, and that's the reason that they're going to be conducting fresh examination. Others are saying that perhaps it's time for there to be an overhaul of the entire procedure of this examination board. Maybe even the board should step down for a younger, more technically advanced individual to take on the running affairs of the examination board. What are your thoughts into this situation?
Yeah, thank you very much. On hearing the challenge that Jam faced and the unfortunate incidents and feeling that students had as a result of the glitch, it's regrettable. And my first thinking is the fact that it could actually be a harrowing experience for any student. The fear and the palpitation that comes with it. But then I think that we in this part of the world, we always think that we want a perfect society and in an imperfect world. If you like, overhaul Jam, take away everybody and restart it. As long as we are still on earth, there will be this one glitch or the other. And I'm not making an excuse for that. And the only thing the Jam body had to do is to nip it in the bud. And there should be punitive measure for whoever I must have erred as a result of failure or sabotage the process. Jam has not just started doing this, and we have never had this experience before. And everybody deserves, in the spirit of the fact that everybody deserves a second chance. I believe they should be given the benefit of the doubt. I haven't even acknowledged and recognized where the issues are, and I already said the student will have to write it. Although I feel that the affected students should be given a buffer in terms of expenses, because logistic of getting back to those places had to be factored in, and maybe they needed to show enough remorse, not just by saying that Jam should also go further to pay for such inadequacies by paying those students stipends to go back to this, because I know that people travel for this, so somebody had to pay for it along the line, and that's the only way to stop. To deter others from doing it. But I do not believe cutting off the head is the antidote to headache. So we will not say because Jam did something happen this year, so every the Jam registrar should resign, and that's to the extreme, and that's to think that there cannot be glitches. There will always be all parts of the world. Even America, they had election and they said Trump as the sitting president alleged that there were challenges, there were glitches and all that. So we cannot be in an imperfect world until the day we wake up in the morning and we discover that we are in a perfect society. Probably we are already in heaven, not well on this earth. So they will make their mistakes and they will learn from it. And let's give them another chance. It shouldn't become a tradition.
All right. Now, turning to Lagos now, there's a conversation about wanting to introduce a monthly rent payment system. What is usually obtainable in Lagos and most part of the country really is that at the end of the year, or sometimes especially those who are getting an apartment for the first time, they would be mandated to pay certain fees, 1 year, 2 years. And the reason for this is some way to create some kind of reduce the financial burden, and of course to reduce the housing rate. But some people have argued that introducing monthly and quarterly rent payments would in itself would not solve the housing rent crisis that is existing in Lagos and some parts of the country. So what I would like to get your insight into this. Is it an argument that you also hold that this method that is being introduced will solve the problem, or perhaps there needs to be other angles that need to be looked at in order to solve the housing problem in Lagos?
Yeah, to be sincere with you, I will be the happiest person on earth if such an innovation could come to light in Nigeria. And let's have Lagos as...
You have 1 minute remaining.
From that, we seem to be selective in what we want to copy from the Western world, where we think what we call Sena Klein. We want to be selective on this thing happening in Sena Klein, but we don't want to domesticate some of these things. We pick and choose what happens in Sena Klein that we want to happen in Nigeria. I do not know if you actually want a corrupt free society. When you want people to pay for what they have not enjoyed, or what they have no capacity for. You want to rent an apartment, you have to go and get 2-year rent ahead. And you don't get 2 years salary in advance, even when you just started a job. And now people have to pay through their nose. You want to buy a car, you must get the lump sum money to buy a car. You want to send children to school, you have to get everything in lump sum. And then and in the Western world, that people get comfortable because things are done in piecemeal.
Your call credit has been exhausted and your call terminated. Dial *606.
Apologies, we're going to try to reconnect with Mr. Imani in just a moment. 0805 588 193. 0805 588 193. Mr. Imani, you're back on. Apologies for that interruption.
All right.
Please, go on straight.
All right. People get their salaries per month, and you want them to pay their rent per annum. Now, you will have burdened an average Nigerian. These are things we struggle with that create a propensity for corruption, because we are spending the money we don't really have. We are not as buoyant as the way we run our economy, the micro and the macro economy. So if the state government are we happy someone can get this thing done before he leaves? That we should set a system where, because we want to set things right, if we start it with rent, that I can pay my rent knowing that my monthly income is 50,000 naira, I will know that I should not rent a house that will be more than 5,000 naira per month. At least let me live within my means, or even below my means. The moment you want me to go and bring a 2-year rent, and look at the Lagos, look at the way the house rent is, and the agency, whatever that comes with it. If you want to pay, make up with all of these things, there's no way you won't go out of your way. We're only deceiving ourselves that we want so. So if the state government can get this on course, it's going to be a welcome development, and we can begin to think that we are looking forward to a Nigeria, or Nigeria of our dreams.
But there's an argument that even the cost of housing, if it's to be looked at on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis in comparison to the earning capacity of individuals who live in Lagos who are supposed to be subscribing to these rents, some have argued that having to pay it in a lump sum seems much more reasonable, as they would have to prepare long term for it, as opposed to you want to pay your rent and at the same time you have all that commitments that you'll have to meet up. We're talking about feeding, transportation for those who are married, kids, school fees, and the rest. So would it indeed really positively impact housing in Lagos if this particular scheme is to be introduced?
No, if you're actually living a reality, I'm talking about what's living a reality. If you cannot afford the cost of housing per month and you earn monthly income, it shows you cannot afford it per annum. Most of us we live beyond our means, and that's because I wouldn't know why if your monthly income cannot take care of your monthly rent. When we get abroad, why do we adjust to these things and we make it look as if we cannot adjust to it here? At least there's no company pays per week here in Nigeria. Maybe there are, but I'm not aware of any. No company or no establishment, the government pay per month. So where do we get per annum? Which money will a civil servant be expecting per annum to parents that they couldn't have afforded now, except for somebody that will be living beyond his means? That's the only time you know, and you know that this house is not for you. If you cannot factor the amount of rent out of it on monthly basis, then it's not for you. Now you can take away this idea of every year out somebody has to, whenever you want to pay your rent, you are running. It looks as if it's an urgent thing, something you have been planning for before now, because you are not living within your means. It's not realistic. So you will know that this house is not for you. Now, for somebody earning 100,000 naira per month, and you want to rent a house in Lagos, and they say it's 2.5 million naira. How do you now divide it into months? That means if you pay in a month, probably you will not eat again. Now, so it has to come down to your reality, and this unrealistic expectation of property owners, that the moment they have a building setup, they want to recover everything. Real estate in other parts of the world, it's not so. It's not in a way like that. And that's why people can go on mortgage. That's why it's easy. These are societies we mentioned that we said is a sinner climb. Are we saying that we are not ready to be seen? Because it looks insane for you to think that somebody earning 100,000 naira in a month, you want the person to be able to afford an annual rent of 2.4 million naira. How does the person survive? But these are the prices we put on houses that we expect people in the same average income earner to come and take such rent. So we will know that those who can afford it. Maybe they have their job cut out, their business owner. But for a salary earner, you know what you can afford and you live within your means. And if you want it to go on mortgage, then you know that, of course, for the next 30 years, maybe if I'm still in service, I'll be paying gradually. Then we can create a society that is not pressured. Another Nigerian today is pressured up already. So all these things add up to that pressure that we face on daily basis. We are not facing pressure because we are hungry only in Nigeria. That's not the truth. The major pressure will be are the bills that comes per time, the school fees every 3 months, the housing, the rent. Before you know, after paying school fees for first and second and third time, you are already in your rent again, and you are starting another term session again for your children. So these are pressure that we face on daily basis, and most of us cannot meet. There are ends that we cannot meet. So let's live a reality and let's cut it into size. If developers want to actually work on real estate, let's make it mortgage and let the person know that we own this house in the next 20 years, 25 years. Then you don't want to invest in real estate and you want to get your money because you have just invested. You want to get your money out immediately. That's not the way that happens in other parts of the world.
08055 888 192 08055 888 192 08055 888 193 08055 888 193. These are the numbers to dial to connect with us via the phone lines and join in the conversation. Now, there's been a rumor, speculation about the deadly rice being in circulation. According to what was said, that the rice itself was stolen from a woman, and of course it was smuggled into Nigeria. Now the woman in question, 2 trucks of rice. The woman in question laid curses on the rice, and some have alleged that some people have begun dying. About 70 people who came in contact with the rice have begun dying. And I mean, while we're looking at that, I'm a little bit curious about why innocent people should suffer. You don't know where the rice came from. You paid for it in exchange for the product, and at the same time, you're being suffering for something you actually know nothing about. But at the same time, I'm also concerned about the even reason people are even suffering is that these goods were smuggled into Nigeria, and then again, it begs the question on how porous our borders are, and how that despite every effort, it does seem as though things are not supposed to getting are getting in. I'll like your thoughts into this latest speculation.
Yes, I thank you very much. I saw the news, but just as you are, I'm also curious. My curiosity is in the fact that, except the rice was poisoned, that's the issue. I do not see any reason why somebody who went to market to buy a rubber of rice will suffer because somebody stole it or a cost was placed on it. In Yoruba balance, what we call it is only in the case of war that somebody do or being fetish. It cannot be it can't mistake somebody. It is. I think if there is going to be a cause, cannot be whoever eats the rice. Maybe whoever stole the rice, whoever eats the rice and bought the rice with his added money shouldn't suffer for it. That's my belief. But on the flip side, also, I think that the porosity of our borders cannot be overemphasized, and we can only try because an average Nigerian wants to circle, cut corners, and do whatever he can to get things done in his own ways. So but the only thing, how do we call this the menace of this particular rice? I don't know. I think it has to be investigated whether it was poisoned. If for those who have eaten it, and maybe a specimen of it could be taken to ascertain that kind of rice. And our people may have to be more careful, because I do not actually want to believe that because there was a cost placed on it, I rather think it's a thing of maybe poison, a poisoned rice, or the processing of that rice. Something may have been wrong. We have had rubber rice issues about rice here in Nigeria. We have a very large market, and so many things are dumped on our shores because of the greedy nature of an urban Nigeria. And so we want to make money at all costs, not minding whose else is being got. So I think the investigation should be carried out rather than talking about cause. Maybe it was actually poison.
And even if at all poison is the case, again, how did this get in? I mean, again, there's got to be something more. I mean, what, from your perspective, what else can be done? I mean, in ensuring that our borders are as protected as they ought to be, to avoid and to curb the influx of these materials and products and produce are not even supposed to be consumed in the first place. It just happens, and from petroleum and to food produce, it's just something that just keeps happening.
Our major challenge is the complexity of those who man our borders. We have a challenge that whenever you place another Nigerian to be in charge of, there's possible tendency to be complicit or to aid even what is supposed to stop, to be the one to aid such in. So even when we say we have a large border that we cannot sufficiently man, we still try as much as possible. When they are overstretched, there are still people that stop them and check. But what they check is how to get their own money and let them pass. So the integrity of those in charge, our custom officers, and those in charge of our borders, had to whatever. I don't even know how to start that. But I just believe that these things are there because even when they are stopped and checked, they are still checked in when they pay their way in, not minding whatever they are bringing in. So a very large, I'm not saying there are no custom officers, but the bad eggs are still there in their large numbers. And what they are concerned about is what you pay them and bring whatever you are bringing in. And so until we can minimize this a very large extent, things, whatever we say is contraband or whatever, will still be coming in. Because an average Nigerian, I don't know how to say this, but the Nigerianness, I don't like to say it, but the Nigerianness in us make us compromise every structure, every instruction. And so it brings to fore all these issues of what we don't want that comes in. You can say the border is porous. It is porous because of those who man it, allow those things to come. If they are not permeable, those things cannot come in. And so you hardly find suspects. They can get good contraband. They hardly prosecute those in charge. These rights that in particular we are talking about can be traced. The custom officers can trace them. They know they know the channel to whatever rice they saw in market. At the time, they even go to market to confiscate rice before the outcry. They know they can trace that to a particular person. But then the person who had paid his way also, and for somebody who's also complicit, can decide not to follow it through. So you only see them seize the truck of rice, but even when they destroy it, they don't prosecute the owners. And to a very large extent, it doesn't serve as deterrent. They still don't stop these people from bringing them in. And that's where we are.
08055 888 192 08055 888 193 08055 888 193 08055 888 192 08055 888 192. Talking a bit about security and the insecurity. The latest has got to be the hit on military base in Borno. And now the Nigerian Army Operation Hadinkai has raised alarm that these terrorists, Boko Haram terrorists, use armed drones. They use armed drones in carrying out their activities, and some people have sort of I've taken a swipe at the Nigerian Army for even raising that as a concern, because it does appear as though they are worried that they do not have the capacity or the resources or the tools it requires to combat the technological advancement that these terrorists are employing to carry out their nefarious activities. But before I take your comments on that particular one, let's see who's on the line. Hello, good morning. Hello? Okay, this seems to have been disconnected. 08055 888 192 08055 888 192 08055 888 193 08055 888 193. Mr. Mani, please share your thoughts.
Yes, the issue of insecurity, particularly in the north, concerning Boko Haram and what has ravaged the northern part of Nigeria for a very long time. It doesn't really matter the kind of technology that is being deployed. I know that, of course, technology-wise, we are not there. But for as long as the communities are complicit, for as long as they are majorly collaborators, the sabotage of the military efforts will always be there. And also within the military, there are huge columnists.
Mr. Mani, just hold on. Sorry to interrupt you. Hello, good morning. What's your name?
Hello, good morning. How are you? Okay.
I'm fine, thank you. What's your name, please, and where are you coming from?
This is calling from Ikorodu.
Okay, please go ahead.
Please, I don't, in fact, like I used to tell you, this country is an apology. That's one. Number two, if Burkina Faso will be in defense of their country and then taking away all these terrorists or Boko Haram, or how do they call them? Something about 100 of terrorists in their country that could be pursued away. Then, as big as Nigerian military strength, what are we talking about? We all know what is happening. This is conspiracy of the eyes of that. There's nothing we can do in this country except if we all down tools and say no, enough is enough. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. 08055 888 192 08055 888 192 08055 888 193 08055 888 193. Mr. Imani, please go ahead with your contribution.
Thank you. Yes, I was talking about the fact that there are complicities all around in concerning the war against insurgency. The communities, the community leaders, before now we have seen where community leaders are collaborators with the terrorists. For as long as it doesn't really matter the kind of technology you want to deploy, for as long as we find fifth columnists in the military, we find people among the communities who are enablers. This war or this battle will keep on and on. And I think more orientation had to be done by the leaders. I'm talking about leaders of thought. It has something to do with politics, and I don't actually understand this obsession that we have about Burkina Faso comparing Burkina Faso to whatever happens in Nigeria. Those I don't want to go into that anyway. But I know that there are nothing to compare. Burkina Faso is not there. The battles are already there. They will keep fighting the battle. But most of these battles are not kinetic. It's not what you win at once. We have to pursue it through a non-kinetic means. The leaders, we have so much of government spaces, particularly in the north. The local government system of government have been for a very long time left unattended to, had actually led to these ungoverned spaces. So for now, I think that what the military has to do is has to purge itself, whatever it is that they have, because there's all the drones, whatever, somebody is actually, the battle of Boko Haram is no longer a ragtag stuff again. I think they are orchestrated means to keep putting Nigeria on edge, whether from international communities, not only about a local disgruntled individual again. And so for us to engage them, we have to, of course, set the people, the communities, they have to be on the side of the military. Otherwise, they will keep sabotaging the efforts of the military. It's not because they have more firepower. In once in a while, that insurgency, they will keep ready their head. U.S. as powerful as they were, the Pentagon was attacked. They were caught on their way. Hamas attacked Israel for the first time. They were huge casualties before it started fighting back. So we want to be in a state of peace, and for somebody who wants to be in a state of war, we will not allow the person in a state of peace to rest, except we take the war to them, and except we're on the same page. I mean, the communities, the spaces that these people are running through, and with the government coming up with the forest guard, I think that will go a long way. If the government will actually be sincere about this forest guard, and people will be recruited, will be people who are in that locality, not bringing somebody from Borno to come and to come and secure a forest in Ogun State. If you recruit people from among the indigents to secure, and you empower them to secure their environment, they will do so because that's where they are born, that's where they know as home. They won't leave it for somebody, but you now bring it that will help the issue of community policing. You cannot bring somebody from Borno that will know Ogun State as much as those who are in the environment, in the hinterland, in the creeks. So it is good that that forest guard is coming up.
I mean, some people have argued that if we're to base, the closeness of the individual who is to head the security outfit to the locality, it may also give room for partisan. It may also give room for wanting to play to the sentiment of the people in the region, and that is the argument that some people are also upholding.
I'm not talking about state policing now. I feel that state policing is good where it has been practiced all over the world. But in Nigerian context, I am afraid because of the powers of the governors. I am not talking about state policing. I'm still talking about the federal government recruiting forest guard from the forest they're actually going to guard, not bringing somebody from another state to another place. Now, that cannot be manipulated by a state governor or a local government. They are recruited to work. The reporting line is not limited to that environment. So, becoming more powerful than that environment will not come in when we still have a check and balance system. So, it is important. The major reason I'm saying is that let those who know the forest. Sambisa forest is very huge. Now, if you don't know the terrain, you cannot secure that place. Those who were born in that terrain, those who have lived their lives in that terrain, and those who they have the sense of belonging to the state, they won't pledge their allegiance to infiltrators. The problem is the fact that they have been cut off from the state for a very long time. They feel not recognized by Nigeria. So if somebody comes from Libya, from any part of Africa, to recruit them and feed them, the person becomes their hero. But if we can demilitarize and make them, protect their community. That will not take away military from overseeing the affair. But at least if you empower them to stay in those communities, what you find out is that even in our state here, even in Lagos State, if you recruit teachers, for some of them will not want to go to the local, the interland, the needy part of the state. Everybody wants to stay in the city. In the city. So when you recruit them, they beg for the job, but they refuse to stay and do the job where they were needed the most. When you have some people in majority in a particular school in the city, you see the villages that they have one teacher teaching all the subjects. So if we recruit like that for forest guard or to keep these territory or these ungoverned spaces, it will still happen like that. But if it is those who are living there that they have been recruited to do the job there, that is their life. The hunters in those environments, if you are recruited as a forest guard, they know the forest already. They are acquainted with that place. They may not have had enough firepower, but if the government will empower them, they want to protect their land. No king you want to be displaced of their land to go and if you are a king of a place and you are displaced to go to another place, where will you be king? You can't come to Ikeja to come and be king if you are supposed to be in Ota, a king there, because terrorists displaced you. Nobody wants. So if you make the traditional rulers part of this recruitment exercise and make them have input and to know those who were drafted from their communities, they will ensure that this thing is also that they are secured. They can continue to have their reign. So until we get to that, it is then we can have the people in those environments. Unless we have their hand on it, terrorism won't stop. For as long as people that they are supposed to protect, but the military is supposed to be also enablers, they only expose the military to dangers. So it doesn't even matter the firepower of the military. For as long as those people who want to die with you are part of people you are protecting.
Just a moment, Mr. Mani. Hello, good morning. What's your name? Hello? Okay, we seem to be having a problem with the connection this morning. Okay, all right, Mr. Mani, our time is fast spent. Our time is fast spent, and this is where we're going to have to call it a day. Thank you very much for contribution. Yes. All right. In about 1 minute, I'll see if I can getting a call, just one call before we'll call it a day. 0805 588 193. 0805 588 193. 0805 588 192. 0805 588 192. Hello. Okay. This seemed to be. Perhaps the rain has interfered with the connection, but that's the best we can take this morning on the breakdown. It's been great hanging with you today. Do well to join us again next week. Begins on Tuesday at 10 a.m. for another deep dive into the headlines as they appear across the dailies. I am Ogboi Mark. Good morning and God bless you.
Feel bẹ́ẹ̀ má yí kúrò níbẹ̀ mo fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. Welcome to Adamimogo 93.1 FM, here for your listening pleasure all across the globe. Download our mobile app on Google Play Store to listen to us